What's up, my construction entrepreneurs? Tyrone here on this lovely Saturday, right? But I'm jumping on here to talk to you about markup on projects, right? There's some of us out there that's marking up. We're marking up labor, and we're only marking up the labor. Then there's some of us out there that's marking up for the job as a whole, right? And then there's some of us marking up only equipment, right? There's some of us marking up labor, equipment, and not materials. And which one should you do, right? Where should you apply the markup at on each estimate for each type of project? Well, you apply the markup as a whole, okay? So if you're providing labor only type rates, then you provide the markup for that labor, okay? Not just for yourself, you provide the markup for that labor so that you know that you're making X amount of dollars per hour per labor, right? Now, a lot of times that may look like a daily profit percentage, right? What you want to make on a daily rate, having 3 guys working, and then you want to make $300 that day or $500 that day. But with that rate there, you need to make sure that you have your labor burden in there. Even if you don't have labor burden, you need to have labor burden in there, okay? And you need to figure out what that percentage is or what that percentage could possibly be, right? You need to have to either call someone like myself or do a research and find out what that percentage is. So you literally add that percentage to the rates that you pay that person, right? Now, a lot of us are dealing with daily rates, right? What that means is that we're not dealing with an hourly rate to pay someone. We're dealing with a daily rate to pay someone, right? Instead of me paying someone $30 an hour, you're paying someone $200 a day, right? And you're expecting to work them, 2, 4, 6, 8, or 10 hours a day, and they just get that daily rate. That lump sum there, okay? Then you add to that daily rate whatever the percentage is, okay? So if you want to mark it up a percentage, you want to make sure you mark up with that labor rate a labor burden percentage, okay? 11 to 13% is good. So you take that labor rate, $30 an hour times 1.13 times 13%. Okay, and then let's say that's your labor burden. Say you have an overhead percentage. Okay, say your overhead percentage is low, right? Now, to get your overhead percentage, you want to add in everything that you have to pay as a small business owner. That's what goes into the overhead. Everything that you have to pay that's outside of the jobs, right? Paper. We have to buy paper. Maybe your phone. A certain percentage of your phone is being used for your business. Maybe 100% of your phone is being used for business. You got your truck. You got your fuel. If you're small, you can add your truck and your fuel to there instead of adding it to the job. Okay, or you can add it to the job and not do it as an overhead. Okay, but you need to figure out what that overhead percentage is. Okay, a lot of times the overhead percentage as a small business is around 5 to 7%. A lot of times it's at 3%. If you're not having a high overhead, if you don't have a high, you got to remember this, because it fluctuates. Okay, if your sales are low, your overhead is high. If your sales are high, your overhead is low. Okay, you have to watch my overhead percentage video, how to come up with your overhead percentage, and you'll understand that as each goes high and one goes low. So you have to add the overhead percentage to that. So you take that total number that you just multiplied by the labor burden, and you take that overhead percentage, say you take another 3%. Okay, let's do on the lower end. So you take that number there, and then you times that by 1.03, 3%. Okay, now let's say you want to add profit to that number. Okay, now a rule of thumb is when you're only providing labor, okay, that means that it's a labor-based job. Like a labor-based job is traffic control, okay? That is heavy amount of labor, okay? Another labor-based job is when someone tells you, hey, just bring your crew, we'll take care of the materials. Anytime you got a labor-based job, usually your profit percentage is high, in the 30s and 40s and 50%, okay? You definitely want to have that into a higher range markup. So now we already did the labor burden total, okay? Now we did the labor burden, we did the overhead totals. Now we have that total, and we times it by, let's say, 1.40. Okay, that is a loaded rate. Hopefully you were following along there, because I'm not doing any math or anything like that. I'm just actually breaking it down for you, so you kind of understand what you can be charging and how you can make money off of each person that you employ, and collect what you're actually supposed to pay to employ that person. Okay, and that's what basically goes into building rates. Okay, that's a loaded rate. Now, each of those percentages have a little bit more backing to it than just what I'm saying on this video. But out with the old days of just going to a job site and charging what each person is making, right? You're paying a person $250 a day, and you're only charging the $250 a day for that person. You're beating yourself all the way up, okay? There should be a markup to every person on that job, okay? If you're trying to calculate it that way. A lot of times the markup is on the entire job, okay? But this is the key here. If the markup is on the entire job, you still have to calculate the labor burden per person for that job. Okay? And this is why it's important to get a system here, because it's easy to do these calculations in the system, and it's easy to modify these calculations within a system. Okay? So when you mark it up as a total job, right, you get a final price. Say your final price is $9,000. Now that $9,000 includes equipment that you're going to have on that job. It includes labor with their labor burden. Okay, I don't care if you say I don't have any labor burden. You add a percentage in there for labor burden. Okay, that includes remember, if we're going to put our truck there. Okay, our truck and fuel for that job site. Now, our truck and fuel is only for that job site. It's not for the entire month. It's not for the entire whatever. It's not for any time outside of that job. Okay? Remember that any time outside of that job is indirect costs. The time that goes into that job, material goes into that job, labor that goes into that job is direct costs. Okay? It's directly to the job. Direct costs to the job to get that job done. Okay? So you got your truck and vehicle in there if you decide to put that there. You got, I think I said materials, labor. Remember, with the labor, you got to add your labor burden. You also have any third-party vendors in there. Okay, their numbers in there as well. So your third-party vendors could be a person coming there to demo. Right? It could be a person delivering materials, like concrete, right? That's your vendor. Someone to pump the materials, right? Whatever your third-party vendor is, they're in that number too, that $9,000 number. So you take that $9,000 number, and remember, I don't care how small you are, you have an overhead percentage. It's my daughter coming in, right? You have an, say what's up, Kai.
What's up?
Okay, that's enough.
Oh my God.
So, I'm doing a video real quick.
Huh?
So, he's. Are you trying to wake him up? Anyway, so maybe leave him alone. Here, I'll let you know. So, Okay, let's get back to it. That's my daughter. We're at a park. So, 9,000. Okay, say your total job is 9,000. It has everything in there. You take that 9,000 and you times it by your overhead percentage. Okay. Now, if your overhead percentage is at 3%, then you times it by the 3%. Okay, 1.03. If your overhead is at 10%, then you times it by 1.10. Okay, 1.10. Okay, your overhead and if as a small business, I don't want to hear that you don't have overhead. Everyone has overhead. Every single one of us. So we need to figure what that rate is, and we need to plug that in. Okay, and you should have it in a percentage form, not a dollar form, a percentage form. Okay, because it's a percentage of total jobs that you land for that month or that week, however often your overhead is going to change, right? It's a total percentage per that month. Okay, so you take that 9,000 times 1.03. Okay, let's say 1.03 is our overhead, and then you add a profit to the total job. Okay, so now the profit is at, let's say, 10%. Okay, that's a standard industry profit percentage. Okay, I'm up to 13 to 15, up to 20% profit, depending on what projects I do. Okay, it's based on what I call my risk factor. Okay, my risk factor is dealing with, there's a minimum amount I want to make per job, and you got to have that minimum amount. So my minimum amount for standard jobs, let's say standard, we're not talking about with a lot of work or anything like that. With standard jobs, the average type job, I want to make 300. 300 is for my business, not for my pocket. Okay, 300 is a profit percentage I'm making for the business. So I want to make a minimum of $300. Okay, so $300 I want to make. So I base my risk factor based up from there, up from the $300. Okay, so I look at where I'm working, what I'm working around, and how difficult it is to do the work. So if I'm working around a $3 million house, then my risk factor goes up, because we need to be more careful with things. We need to watch how we, maybe I don't want anyone carrying anything on a wheelbarrow because it may damage parts of this house or this fence, which is very expensive to repair. So I look at that risk factor, okay? That I know we got to take more time doing that, then that's going to cost more. Okay, and also too, that should reflect in your labor rates too as well, right? It's going to take you longer to set up. It's going to take you longer because you got to be a little bit more careful. You got to be on the craftsman side of things. Okay, not every number is. All my numbers that I give is not for craftsman type work. So my customers, I tell them, like, especially when I was doing residential, you're not getting a craftsman type job because it's not a craftsman type price. Okay, that's another video, but. You take the 9,000, okay? Let's say if I want to make, and my labor, let's say my, not my labor, but my profit percentage is at 13%, okay? So I do that, I do the 9,000, times the 3%, okay, which is the overhead, and then you times that by your profit percentage. Say my profit percentage, say for this one, I want to do 13%. So it's times 1.13. Okay. So that'll be your profit percentage. Now, you to figure out that profit percentage, okay, we don't add the one. The one adds it to the total number, okay? It automatically integrates it into the total number. Let's take that that 9,000 number times the overhead number is the 1.03, okay? We take that new number there and we say times 0.13, and it's going to give us the amount of the profit. Okay, so we want to take that amount of the profit and we want to actually divide that by how many days we're working on that project. So you want to see what that is. Okay, you want to see what you're making per day on that project. Okay, and see if you're making your minimum at the 13%. So and remember, the minimum I'm assuming is $300 a day. Okay, so if you're not making $300 a day, then you up or you up that percentage. Okay, maybe it needs to go up to 15%. Maybe it needs to go up to 20%, and that's how your percentage rates raise. Don't just normally charge because that's an industry standard of 10%. Don't just charge that. You break down whatever that profit percentage equals in dollars based on that project value. You divide that profit number, that value, by how many days to see how much you're making per day. All right, my construction entrepreneurs, I'm gonna let you go with that. Try to keep it short. Let me know if you learned something from this. I didn't have a whiteboard. I just gave you it raw. So hey, catch you on the next one. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this with someone because it definitely will help you out to be more profitable, to land more jobs, and to get faster at this and have more confidence. That's what it's all about. As long as you got confidence in this, you're going to get faster. You're going to get quicker. You're just going to excel at a faster rate than if you're hesitating or confused, unsure.
We do an easy takeoff here, and then we transfer the takeoff numbers into the CES estimating system. With the CES estimating system, we can account for a number of things, like our labor burden, which needs to be accounted for every project. And then we can also see an estimating system that it allows us to track our labor burden, our labor costs, raw materials, truck and fuel, sand and ready mix, subcontractors if we have them, and per diem costs. You can put a cost in there for per diem if your guys are going out of town for this particular job. Also here on each column you see a final total that shows you the final total per column that you have inputted into the system. And then we have a bond section and profit and overhead and then totals.